She sold her dad's house, now she's banging on my door demanding to come back inside. AITA story. Imagine buying a house, settling in with your parents, making it your home for 4 years, and then one day, the previous owner's daughter shows up at your fence, calls you names, demands to come inside, and turns your entire neighborhood against you because you sold things she told you she didn't want. That's exactly what happened in today's story. So, is this family being cold and disrespectful to a grieving daughter? Or is the previous owner acting entitled to a house that doesn't belong to her anymore? Let's get into it. Our storyteller is a 25-year-old woman living with her parents. Back in 2020, they bought a house together. But this isn't just any house. This place was basically a legacy project. Decades ago, a carpenter and his friends all moved out to the countryside and built homes side by side. They raised their families there. The original owner of Op's house lived there with his wife and daughter for years. His wife passed away. The daughter moved out. Eventually, the carpenter himself passed away, and the daughter came back just long enough to sell the house and leave the state again. So, an Op's family moved in. They didn't just get 4 walls and a roof. They walked into a home saturated with memories from another family's entire life, and that becomes important. After moving in, Op's family starts going through the house, and they find stuff, not just junk, really personal, valuable things. They find boxes of old family photos, snapshots of birthdays, holidays, the daughter growing up. They find expensive carpentry tools, the kind a craftsman collected and cherished over decades. They discover high-end cookware and kitchen equipment. This is not trash. These are sentimental items and valuable tools. So Op's family does what most people would consider the right thing. They try to contact the daughter. They call, they text, they email, they even ask neighbors if they can help get in touch. Nothing. Silence. For years, they're basically holding this emotional time capsule, waiting for someone who doesn't want to pick it up. Then, in 2022, they finally get a response, and it's not what they expected. When the daughter finally replies, she doesn't say, "Oh my gosh, thank you for keeping my dad's tools safe." Instead, she yells at OP's mom for pursuing her. She says she doesn't want anything that belonged to her parents. She doesn't want the tools. She doesn't want the cookware. She doesn't want the photos. She just wants to be left alone. She calls OP's mom some pretty nasty names and hangs up. At that point, OP's family says, "Okay, we try." Multiple times, they stop reaching out. They sell the carpentry tools. They sell some of the fancy cooking gear. And because they actually do care about the sentimental side, they give the old family photos to a neighbor who had been close with the original owner, hoping they'll end up in the right hands someday. From their perspective, that chapter is closed. They tried to do the good and decent thing. The daughter refused, but the story is far from over. Fast forward to last week. Op is in the backyard when her neighbor calls her over to the fence. There's a younger woman standing there. She introduces herself. She's the daughter, the previous owner's kid who grew up in the house. She thanks Op for getting the family photos too. The neighbor, so far so good. But then she brings up the tools and the cookware. Op calmly explains, "We tried to reach you for years. You told my mom you didn't want any of your parents' things. So, you sold the tools and cookware, and that's when everything explodes." The daughter loses it. She's furious that they got rid of items that were meaningful to her parents. She accuses Op of lying, calls her a bitch, and acts like they just casually pawned off her parents' legacy behind her back. Op reminds her, "We called, we texted, we emailed, we had neighbors reach out. You told my mom you didn't want anything and cursed her out." The daughter doesn't care. She's locked into rage mode. Then she says, "Well, at least let me inside the house. I want to see it again." And Op just says no. Why? Because this woman has just screamed at her, insulted her, and already treated her family like villains for doing their best in a situation they didn't create. Op doesn't feel safe or comfortable letting her inside their home. And remember, it is their home now. Legally and emotionally, the daughter gets even angrier. The neighbor sides with her and starts yelling at Op. Op hurries inside. Doors locked, heart pounding. 10 minutes later, the daughter is banging on the front door, demanding to be allowed inside her house. Op's parents tell her through the door, "No, you can't come in." That just fires up the neighbor. He joins her, pounding on the door so hard they almost leave a dent. For over an hour, Op's family keeps asking them to leave. Eventually, they go, but the damage is just beginning. Now word spreads. The neighbors, who all loved this girl, who watched her grow up on that street, hear her side of the story. And OP's family goes from the new folks who bought Mr. Carpenter's house to the heartless people who sold his belongings and wouldn't even let his daughter see her childhood home. Now, when they walk round the neighborhood, people give them dirty looks. Older neighbors grunt or scoff when OP's family tries to be friendly. They're suddenly the villains on the block. All because they enforced a boundary in their own house. From OP's perspective, they did everything right. They tried to return the sentimental items for years. When the daughter finally answered, she cursed out OP's mom and refused the items. They honored the emotional weight of the photos by passing them to someone who cared. They sold the tools and cookware after being told they weren't wanted, and when the daughter showed up and immediately started insulting Op and calling her names, Op made a very clear decision. You don't get to come inside my home and treat me like trash. Now she's asking, am I really the bad guy here? Or am I just an easy target because this woman is grieving and the neighborhood is emotionally attached to her family's history? Let's break this down. Legally, once you sell a house, it's no longer yours. You don't get to demand access. Pound on doors, yell at the new owners, call them names for making decisions about their own property. Emotionally, it's more complicated. This woman lost her mom, then her dad. The house represents her entire childhood. The tools and cookware were probably symbols of her parents' passions. Grief does weird things to the brain. She may have pushed everything away at first, and only later realized she wasn't ready to lose it all. But here's the key. Her grief doesn't give her the right to harass people. Op's family actually went above and beyond. Most buyers would never spend years trying to track down the previous owner's child. They could have tossed everything in a dumpster and walked away. Instead, they got insulted for their effort. They tried to respect the past and move forward with their own life. The neighbor, he's letting nostalgia override basic respect. If he wanted to preserve the tools and cookware so badly, he could have asked to buy them himself years ago. Instead, he joins the screaming, bangs on someone else's door, and helps make them feel unsafe in their own home. At the end of the day, this is about boundaries. You can grieve your old house, you can miss your parents, you can even regret selling it, but you cannot verbally abuse the new owner, demand access, and turn the community against them because they wouldn't let you walk back into a life you chose to leave behind. Personally, I don't think OP is the asshole here. Could she have said, "Hey, if you calm down, maybe we can schedule a visit another day"? Sure, that might have been the diplomatic approach, but after being cursed out in 2022, after being yelled at the fence, after being called a liar and a bitch, it makes total sense that she decided, no, you don't talk to my family like that and then get welcomed inside her house, her rules, her safety, her boundary. Meanwhile, the daughter needs therapy and closure, not a key to a house that no longer belongs to her. But that's just my take. What do you think? Is Op being cold and insensitive to a grieving woman, or is she completely justified in saying no to someone who sold their home, refused their parents' belongings, and then tried to storm back into their life years later? Drop your verdict in the comments, NTA, YTA, ESH, or not. And if you want more real-life Ada stories, rewrites, and deep dives into messy human situations, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one.